Digital downloads are an awesome way to build Etsy sales you can count on. Let's see the super simple idea this seller uses to be a passive income pro.
But first, I'm Jess at InsightsByJess. I dig deep into what makes Etsy stores successful and where they can improve so that you get the full 411 on what's really selling and why. Let's jump in.
Okay, y'all. So this was such a fun store to kind of examine because it is a little bit different than some of the other digital download stores that I have showcased before. So not every digital download needs to be super smart and technical and complicated. Printables are actually really popular too, and this store is a great example. This has super simple ideas that can be put together pretty quickly, and it is selling consistently well, proving that sometimes simple really is the best. And for a 2-year store, this one seems to be off to a great track, but it does need a few changes because the sales are there. It is selling great, but their profits are slacking a little bit. So I do have a few tips that could really elevate this store's profit power. So first, let's go over their store stats. This is My Life Plans, and as you can see, they have some pretty cool planners that look printable. They are not spreadsheet planners, they are printable planners. This store has just over 62,000 sales and almost 600 listings, so that's actually quite a few listings for a store in this niche. Let's take a peek at their oldest feedback here. This store is only 2 years old, and their very first feedback is February 4th of 2021. So they just celebrated their 2-year anniversary. So congratulations to them. That's awesome. Their average product price is not even $2. It is actually about $2, and you'll see why when we look at their best sellers, but that's pretty low. That is really, really, really low. And considering how long they've been open and how many sales they have with that very low average price of $2, that puts their approximate annual sales at almost $62,000 a year, which, as I said about 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 times now, is pretty low, right? If you look at their 62,000 sales, that's a great number. That is a great number of sales for a 2-year-old store to have. And so there is definitely room for improvement here. Let's take a look at their storefront. It is pretty simple. Not a lot catches your eye. They do not have a store banner. They do not have a shop announcement at all. So there's not really a lot of personality in here. But I do love how all of their main images have a simple, cohesive look. They're all easy to see. You can clearly tell what they are. They've got big font right here at the top above the product itself that says birthday tracker or favorite quotes or whatever the product happens to be. It's very, very clear. And it's easy to see even when it's small, which is fantastic. So looking at some of these prices, they are well under that $2 mark. This one, for example, is $1.35. So I want to look over in my workbook and see what they are making on this product. So at $1.35, not on sale, they are paying 58 cents for selling fees to Etsy. So assuming they're not doing any marketing whatsoever, that gives them 77 cents of profit, which is almost a 60% profit margin, but 77 cents per sale is really not a whole lot. For some of these other listings, they have a common price of $1.77. We're seeing that repeated a lot here. That would give them $1.15. So that brings them up over the dollar mark, which is definitely better. But it is still a pretty small amount, especially when they've got 62,000 sales and they are pretty established at that point. They have a good number of feedback pushing them through and giving them buyer authority. So I would personally suggest, if this was my store, just to raise their lowest prices to $2 or $2.50 so that they can get some better profits. But I also want you to notice that they do have some higher priced products that are bestsellers. This one is $3.38 and it's a bestseller. They have this one is $4 and it's a bestseller. So some of their listings are up at a higher price. And that tells me that this seller is probably raising their prices strategically and keeping the listings that don't sell as well at a lower price point. And as certain listings start selling better and better, they're slowly raising those prices up to a more sustainable profit amount, which is a very smart strategy for profit growth. They can inch those prices up little by little and be comfortable about it without worrying that they're losing sales. So that is a good way to get introduced into the digital product niche or the digital product category, is to start out with lower prices, and as things start selling and gaining some buyer credibility, you can raise those prices up. However, there are other sellers who keep their prices low intentionally. I don't know if you guys remember, one of my earliest videos had a lot of digital downloads. All of them were $1, and that store was raking in sale after sale after sale. We're talking hundreds of thousands of sales. So it can also be a strong strategy to intentionally keep your prices low if you are in a digital niche that has high volume of sales. So it is a personal preference that is largely going to depend on what your particular financial goals are. If you need higher profits right away, or if you want to build a store that has a high sales volume. And there is a perk to having high sales volumes instead of higher profits per sale. For example, our store can actually be less vulnerable if we have more sales with lower prices, especially if those sales are spread out over multiple listings. Because if a competitor comes along with a better product and we lose sales on a popular listing because someone has outranked us, it can definitely affect our bottom line more if we have less sales at a higher profit than it would affect us if we had a lot of sales at a lower profit. Hopefully that makes sense. I do need more coffee. But let's take a look at a bestseller here. So we're going to take a peek at one of their $1.77 products. But while I'm thinking about it, before we dig into their SEO and all that good stuff, I do want to mention I do have some resources, some free resources that are specifically for digital designers at the link below. So if you haven't seen in a while, make sure you check those out. And if you are super, super awesome, you can buy me a coffee and help support this channel. And thank you to all of you awesome people who have already donated or bought me a coffee already. You guys rock. So let's take a look at this particular product here. I'm actually surprised this is selling so well because it is such an easy idea. It is a monthly habit tracker. And looking at their images, you can see it's a very simple design. You can print it out, you write down your habits, and then you check them off each day. Super awesome. They have two different versions if you like the boxes or if you like the circles. I think I like the circles better. And then two different sizes. So if you're in Europe and you like the A4, they've got that size. If you're in the States, they've got the letter size. So very, very cool. And they also have it as an editable PDF. So they've really covered all angles on this. You can use it digitally, or you can print it, or you can even save it to your device. Very, very cool. So I love this. And then they have an image that has related products. So other things that you might like. So very cool, very smart. And like I said before, it is a really simple idea. It does not take a lot of effort to create a design like this. It's lining up a lot of circles and really laying it out very simply, which is really, really cool. It cracks me up because a lot of us could quickly just make something like this ourselves. We could jump into Microsoft Word or jump into a Google Doc and make something like this. But that takes time, and sometimes it is so much easier to just buy something pre-made and not have to worry about it, not have to spend that time creating it when you have other things to do and you're busy. In fact, when I first started my very first Etsy store, My husband was so surprised that it was selling really well because the things I was selling, like party decor, t-shirts, wall decals, things like that, were all easily doable crafts, right? People could just make all of those things all by themselves. They didn't need me. And it was hard for him to understand that not everyone had the time or the energy or the money to waste on supplies learning how to do these things. They just want them done, done well, and ready to go. And it blew his mind, and he thought it was so hilarious that people were paying me money for these things. So now we have a joke, a running joke, that if I have an idea and he thinks it's dumb, then that means I should definitely do it because his good idea radar is obviously backwards. So, anyways, this idea is so simple. It is genius. It's one of those things that we don't want to sit down and design ourselves because even if it is simple, it does take time to make it. So, I really wanted to point that out because sometimes we might think, like my husband, that if it is simple, no one's going to buy it. That we have to come up with an idea that is genius and that is clever and that is complicated and something that people can't just do for themselves. And that's not true. This is so simple that it is genius. And I think that is really powerful and that is something that needed to be pointed out. Let's look at their title here. I can already tell it's a pretty good length. I'm going to go back into my workbook here, whoops, and put my test title in here. They are using 135 out of 140 characters, so they have done a great job with their title, which is fantastic. And you can see they've got some good variety in here, and they are also emphasizing their important words like habit. So they have monthly habit tracker printable, habit tracker template, routine tracker, 30-day habit challenge. So lots of keywords there. And before we look at their description, let's look at their keywords since they're right here under the images. You can see a similar amount of variety. They do have some long tail keywords and then they have some really short ones. And printables and printable. These caught me a little bit by surprise because they are not specific at all and they are almost the same. So that did seem like a little bit of a waste. Having one of these could be useful. I don't think that they need to have it twice. They could use that for something a little bit longer and a little bit more specific, but the rest of these are pretty good. They got goal tracker in here, monthly habit tracker, very, very good use of keywords. Scrolling down to see the rest of them, they have really done a good job of targeting different reasons people would use a habit tracker like fitness, workout, diet, weight loss, gym log. They are combining these to get as much coverage as possible, which is very, very smart. And then they have Frag design, which is really, really, really specific. Not very many people will know what that is, but if you click on that search term, you can see it is a challenge. It's 75 hard challenge. It is for daily tracking and for habit tracking specifically. So that was a very clever tag to include. It is a hyper specific tag. So they may not get a lot of search volume on that tag, but it is going to give them a very targeted buyer. So somebody who is going to type that in is probably looking very specifically for this type of product. So that can be really powerful as well. This seller really is doing a great job of combining long tail keywords and maximizing their search visibility and also including really specific searches so that they can really get visibility in as many searches that are relevant as possible, which is very, very smart. In fact, I just did a video that had the opposite strategy, and one of their listings had almost all single word tags, and it was frustrating to see how easily someone could just enter their niche and take over as a competitor. So I will put that card to that video up at the top if you want to take a peek at that. So let's take a peek at their description here. Alright, so they start right off the bat with those related items, which is not the smartest way to do things in terms of SEO. I would probably take this particular paragraph, oh, and just move this right above these two links here up at the top. This is a really great appeal statement. It says this printable monthly habit tracker is designed to help you stick to your new habits. Just download, print, and get started right away. So they really are capitalizing on the idea that this is simple and it's ready for you to use, which is very smart. And then they have their important keywords in here like printable monthly habit tracker. So very, very good. And if they pop that up above these links, I think that could really help them in terms of SEO. Okay, so let's look at another listing here. This is a to-do list, and this is one of their $4 bestsellers. This is also another super simple idea, but they do have a lot of different styles in here. So as we scroll through their photos here, we can see that there's a lot of different styles of different to-do lists. And really, how is that different? Huh. Okay. And some of these just have minor changes. For example, there's 6 kind of blocks here, but if we go back a page, it's the same style, but with only 2 long columns. So there's not a huge difference here in design. And honestly, to create these designs, you really only need to lay this out the first time, and then it only takes a couple of minutes to change each of these designs up and create all of these different versions. It is not that time consuming to do. So they're able to really offer a lot of variety in one listing for a relatively fair amount of work. So that's great because some people are going to prefer some styles over others, and this really helps capture everybody, regardless of what type of to-do list you prefer. There's probably one in here that you are going to like. So I think that's great. Let's take a look at their title. This title is definitely shorter. This one is only using 96 characters, so not as many characters. There are some words in here that they could add. I would definitely have added, for example, the words daily, and I would add the word to do with a hyphen. So they have to-do lists, and they actually only have to-do lists one time in here. There's not really a lot of repetition here. So I would add to do with the hyphen, and then I would definitely add the word productivity because a lot of people who use to-do lists are using them to try to increase their productivity. If we look at their tags, we can see that a lot of the words from their title are here, but we can also see right away some words that they haven't included. For example, weekly is not up here in their title. Digital to-do list is not up here in their title. If we scroll down to look at the rest of their tags, we have editable to-do list, daily to-do list, printable. So they did have daily, like I said a second ago. They also have daily here. They also have productivity planner right here as well. So they did think of some of these things to include in their tags, and they could easily pull some of these words up into that title to make it a little bit longer. They do have great tags. They have a wonderful variety of tags, and you can tell that they really did their research on their tag strategy for this particular product. Their description is basically the same. They start out with a link to something that's related, and it's actually their whole shop bundle. So if we click on that, we can see that for $50 you will get everything in their shop. 700 planners, which is pretty cool. Okay, so they've been selling this for about a year now. So it's selling, and it's definitely a great way to get their price up there. And the profit on this is definitely going to be way, way higher than the profit on a $4 item. So I would move that SEO statement up a little bit higher, get that appeal statement up there, and really attract those buyers to click. This is also very, very short. They could use some more keywords in their appeal statement. And then the rest of their description is pretty much the same. So all the important information, it's not super long, it's not super wordy. So this listing in general is really well done. There's just a few opportunities here to get some better visibility so that they can really jump up higher in that search algorithm. And then the last thing that I want to point out about this store if we go back to their storefront, is that they have this little statement here. None of their items are particularly on sale. They don't have the green on sale pricing, but they all say eligible orders get 30% off. And what that means, if you hover over it here, is that if you buy 3 items, you get 30% off your total order, which is fantastic. That's great. I love sales. They are really powerful drivers for getting more sales, getting more orders. But there is nothing that we have seen on these listings that say there's 30% off if you buy 3 or more. Etsy doesn't tell us that anywhere here near the add to cart section. It's not in the description. They have a whole shop bundle link here. They're trying to get you to buy more here with that, but they could easily say buy 3 for 30% off your cart or whatever. There's ways to say that. So definitely would suggest adding that in there. And I would also suggest adding it in as a little banner on one of their first few images. It doesn't have to be on their main image, but definitely one of the first 3 images, I would add a banner that says buy 3 or more and get 30% off everything. So that could also be really, really helpful for increasing those sales. And if we look back at their storefront again, earlier I mentioned that they have no shop banner at all. They could easily just add a shop banner that says, hey, buy 3 or more items and get 30% off. So things like this really do make a difference, and they can help increase that cart value. So very, very important to point that out. And if you want to see a really unique digital download idea that is making over $250,000 a year, check out this clever store next.